Today we're reading in the Gospel of Luke. We're starting at the first verse of chapter 15. We'll be bouncing around a little bit. Now all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to him, and the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." So Jesus told them this parable. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the share of the property that will belong to me." So the man divided his property between his sons. A few days later, the younger son gathered all he had and traveled to a distant country, and there he squandered his property in dissolute living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine took place throughout that country, and he became to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He would gladly have filled himself with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough and to spare? But here I am dying of hunger. I will get up and go to my father, and I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands.' So he set off and went to his father. But while he was still far off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his slaves, 'Quickly, bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. And get the fatted calf and kill it. And let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate. Now his elder son was in the field, and when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. He called on one of the slaves and asked him what was going on. The slave replied, 'Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he has got him back safe and sound.' And then the brother became angry and refused to go in. His father came out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, 'Listen, for all these years I have been working like a slave for you, and I have never disobeyed your command, yet you have never given me even a young goat so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came back, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him.' Then the father said to him, 'Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice because this brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found.'" One of the fundamental questions the Bible asks us, maybe the fundamental question the Bible asks of us, is this: who will be your God? Who will be your God? This is a question Jesus asks his disciples when he says, "Who do you say that I am?" This is the question Jesus refers to in his lament over Jerusalem. "How often have I desired to gather your children as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, but you were not willing." This is also the question that Adam and Eve get disastrously wrong in the Garden of Eden. And King Ahab in the time of Elijah, and King Saul in the time of Samuel. And these are just from among God's own people. Never mind all the other people worshiping other gods out there. Who will be your God? This is the fundamental question the Bible puts to us, and it happens to be a question the Bible answers for us as well. God speaks from Mount Sinai. "I am the Lord your God. You will have no other gods before me." And again, in the holiest prayer in the Old Testament, what is known as the Shema, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one God." And again, through the prophet Isaiah's oft-repeated claim for Israel's God, "Thus says the Lord, the King of Israel and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts, I am the first and I am the last. Besides me, there is no God. Who will be your God? Whom will you worship? Who will be the object of your praise? The Bible asks this from the first sentence to the very last. Get it wrong, and nothing else will go right. And this is exactly what's happening in the life of the fellow we know as the prodigal son in our story today. The parable of the prodigal son is about the hardest of the hard luck stories in the entire Bible. And there are lots of ways to explain just what is going wrong in this young man's life. He's selfish, he's a lousy son, he's profligate, he's ungrateful, he's immoral, he's drunk, a partier, irresponsible, given to all manner of dissipation. You've probably heard all these explanations. And they are, to be fair, part of his problem. But at the heart of his problem lies something deeper, something more foundational. And the fundamental problem this young man has is wrong worship, wrong praise, the wrong answer to the question, who will be your God? So let's look at the text. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the share of the property that will belong to me. So you don't have to read too carefully to hear from the younger son that he's really all about himself. Give to me what will belong to me. The younger son is turned in on himself. He's all about himself. Only his goals are important to him. And as long as he's all about himself, he can't be about anybody or anything else, can he? So he ignores the feelings of his father. He ignores the impact his actions will have on the family and the family fortunes. He isn't interested in the hopes and dreams his father might have had for him. He doesn't care about his exit from the family will affect his brother. He isn't interested in anything about anybody else. And that adds up to wrong praise, wrong worship. We are all called to be about something higher, something beyond ourselves, and he isn't. His behavior is self-directed. And this foreshadows his self-destruction and the grief he causes to everybody in the story. And this is offered as the consequence of answering this fundamental question incorrectly. Who will be your God? His answer in the early going is, I am, right? I am my God. I'm the one I follow. I'm the one whose interests are more important than any other interests. His ultimate goal is fulfilling his plan, whatever it is. And that means abandoning God's plan, abandoning his father's plan, abandoning his family's plan. And so whether he knows it or not, he strikes off in the service of an alien God. I call it the God of self. And that doesn't work out too well for him, does it? In the Bible, wrong worship, wrong praise, thinking there's a better plan out there than the one God has given us, whatever you want to call it, idolatry even, always results in calamity. And this calamity usually has a pretty wide blast radius. And so the person doesn't only do damage to themselves, right? Does damage to everybody around. Of course, Adam and Eve's wrong praise gets them kicked out of the Garden of Eden, leaving the rest of us to inhabit a world deformed by sin. King Ahab's conversion to the worship of the Canaanite god Baal causes drought not to fall just on Israel, but to the whole Mediterranean. The faithlessness of the people of Judah results in them being torn from the promised land to live in exile in Babylon for 3 whole generations, not just their own. Wrong praise, being misaligned with the purposes of God, has devastating consequences, not just for the people themselves, but with everyone around them. And this pattern is repeated in the Bible over and over and over again. And no great surprise, that's what's happening here. Again. The story has been called the parable of the prodigal son, or the parable of the prodigal son and the generous father, or the lousy son and the loving father, or the lost son and who knows whose father. I mean, it goes by many, many names. The truth is, however, that both of the sons, I would argue, are missing the mark. They might not both be prodigal, but they both have an ego issue, if you ask me. Clearly, the behavior of the younger brother has embittered the son. That's very clear. But the welcome the father gives his prodigal son on his return has really pushed the older brother to the edge. He won't talk with his brother. He won't come into the party. He's resentful of his father. I mean, he's a mess. Listen to what he says to his dad, who's trying to get him to come into the party. All these years, I have been working like a slave for you. I have never disobeyed your command, yet you have never given me even a young goat so that I might celebrate with my friends. Does that sound familiar? He's in the same place as his brother, I think. His sense of what should be happening for him, what should be coming to him, and the grievance that's produced prevents him from caring about anybody but himself. The poor dad has gone 0 for 2 when it comes to sons. And let's talk about the dad. Any of you who've had kids knows how hard it is to see your child losing his or her way, right? It's agonizing. And to add insult to injury, the younger son's demand for a share of the inheritance is akin to wishing his father dead. Give to me the share of the inheritance that will come to me, ... when you die. That's what he's saying. I can't wait for you to kick off, old man, fork it over. And one of the most astounding things in this whole story is the father does it. I mean, that is the generosity and the graciousness and the long suffering of this poor dad. How do you like to have that spoken to you by one of your kids? I can't wait for you to die, Dad. So give me the money now so I don't have to wait. I probably shouldn't tell this story. I hope my son isn't watching, but it just occurred to me that this has actually happened to me. He didn't mean it. Don't get me wrong. But anyway, I grew up in a sporting family, and we like to shoot, trap, and skeet and go hunting every once in a while. And so I was with my son, and we went out to Fresno trap and skeet, and we shot a few rounds of skeet, as we normally do when the weather starts to warm up and hunting season gets closer. And we just had a wonderful time. And it's a time, we're just the two of us, and it's a long drive out, and it's a long drive back, and usually there's nobody to bother us, and we just have some time together. And so we're driving home, and he goes, Dad, I just love this time that I have with you. It's just the two of us, and we're doing something we love, and you've taught me to shoot, and now we're shooting together, and I really hope someday I'll be able to teach my son to shoot if I have one. Great. And I'm feeling like, gold medal father. And then he turns to me. This is no lie. He turns to me and he says, "Hey, Dad, can I ask you a question?" I'm going, "My son, ask away." And without any self-consciousness, his exact words are, "Dad, can I have all your guns when you're dead?" Took him 3.5 hours to walk home. So, I'm kidding. I did pull over. I thought, I need to say something, but I couldn't think of anything to say. I was dumbfounded. So, so this week I'm reading The Prodigal Son having flashbacks, That's okay. But I mean, he didn't mean it. This guy meant it, right? Okay, that's the difference in the story. So do you see the corrosive effects of focusing on yourself only and away from God? And it's not just corrosive of your relationship with God, right? It can be corrosive with all your relationships. This whole family in this story is devastated. I guess today we'd say that it was dysfunctional. Yeah? And that's certainly true, but the cause of all this dysfunction, of all this suffering, is because something other than God has been elevated to the place only God deserves. So where's the way out? Well, it appears in two places. The first is in the heart of the runaway son himself. It probably helps that he's hip deep in pig slop and hungrier than ever, but we'll give him credit anyway. The Bible describes the moment like this: he came to himself. That's both a literal translation of the original text, and at the same time, I think a very poetic but slightly vague expression. What does it mean? Well, it means something like he took a fearless moral inventory of himself and got his head straight, or came to his senses, or had a change of heart, or something happened. But at the center of it, it means he repented, which means he turned away from himself and turned back to other people, turned back to God. What does he say? I have sinned before God and before you, Dad. You see how that works? I'll let him speak for himself. I will get up and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. And that's when it happens. That's when wrong praise turns back into right praise. He reorients himself, literally, from away from home to back home, away from dad to back to dad, away from God back to God. Self is no longer preeminent in this young man's life. Who will be his God? God will be his God. That's who. And once that happens, a lot of other things begin to happen as well. His relationship with his father is put back together. He no longer sees his dad as an impediment to his destiny. He's able to see him as the loving, forgiving, nurturing man he's always been. And for his part, the father is the one actor in this drama who gets it right. And this is the other part of the redemption story. His son would have been fine with being able to come back as a hired hand, but the father welcomes him back as an honored guest. He expects, the son does, pity at best. What he gets instead is overwhelming grace. If you've ever thought the dad was acting in a godlike way toward his wayward son, you're right. Jesus means for the parable to point in that direction. That's exactly how he's acting, and that's exactly how God acts toward us when we stand in the shoes of the prodigal. In Jeremiah 31, the prophet announces God's feelings for wayward Israel, and you can read yourself into these texts. Is Ephraim my dear son? Is he the child I delight in? As often as I speak against him, I still remember him. Therefore I am deeply moved for him. I will surely have mercy on him, says the Lord. The prophet Hosea says pretty much the same thing. How can I give you up, Ephraim? How can I hand you over, O Israel? My heart recoils within me. My compassion grows warm and tender. I will not execute my fierce anger, for I am God and no mortal, the Holy One in your midst, and I will not come in wrath. That's the promise God makes to us in Jesus. Will he come to us? Yes. Will he come for us? Yeah. But no longer in wrath. No longer in wrath. Instead, he'll come and welcome, to embrace us, to welcome us home. Who will be your God? Get that wrong, and nothing else will go right. As this story illustrates, worshiping anything in God's place not only damages your relationship with God, but obviously damages your other relationships as well. Giving yourself to wrong things damages, distorts, weakens, deforms, and sickens your other relationships. Giving yourself to God and His love not only strengthens your capacity to love, but opens you up to the love available to you in your other relationships, even to the love you might not have seen before. But please don't get me wrong. I am not promising that all you have to do is put God first and everything in your life will instantly transform into your best life possible. No, because that's not what's promised in this Bible story. This isn't the way life works, right? We don't always get happy endings. This story, for all its happy endings, still ends with the older brother outside the party, right? Separated both from his brother and his father. What I am saying is the younger brother is bowled over by grace when he returns to the right worship of God. And the same will happen for us. And it does happen, doesn't it? That things sometimes displace God in His rightful place in our lives. Nobody who loves God means to lapse into idolatry, right? Nobody sets out to choose right praise over wrong praise. Nobody, unless you're, a psycho, means to destroy the relationships around you. But we do sometimes. Is it ego or our plans or the way we think things should be that get in the way? Is it a person or a payoff or an idea about ourselves that really wants to push up into number one? It can happen just like that. And when it happens, God is no longer number one. And when God is no longer number one, well, we see what ultimately follows. And that's why Jesus tells this story. To warn us away from the things that can hurt us and can hurt the ones we love. And so He asks again, who will be your God? You get it wrong, and nothing else can go right. You get it right, well, see for yourselves. I invite you to stand as you are able. We are going to pray the prayer that Jesus taught us to pray together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen.